Hi, everybody. Making sure that everything's okay. I'm coming on very late because today, lots and lots and lots of. It's like every other day, right? Um, and then some, and then some, and we're just really sad. We have a lot of bad news today, very bad news, um, and good news to go along with that. Um, Let me make sure that everything is on. Okay, so we just want to send, we're always so heartbroken to see everything that's been going on in the loss of life. And today's no different, right? Today's no different. I want to say that with the Walmart mass shooting and the calls that we have gotten confirming that we broke the case, that there are multiple shooters, right? That there are multiple shooters. In no way, in no way, um, means that people weren't hurt. Didn't lose their life. It means that there is at least one shooter at large. Patrick Crucius is serving 90 life sentences for his part in this, and he had a part in it. Um, but there is an at least one. We think there's multiple more shooters at large. Um, the damage was severe, very, very severe, and and the crime scene was tampered with to cover it up, to protect the other shooters, and to put forth a false narrative of a lone shooter that had no connections with El Paso, which he clearly did, very, very, very significant connections to El Paso in the judicial, law enforcement, mental health, hospital, um, and even at Walmart security, even at Walmart cybersecurity. There's significant family connections with Patrick Crucius, and then with his own immediate family in Allen, Texas, with his father, John Brian Crucius, um, and his connections with the Oprah promoted um, monster called John of God, who was involved in the worst type of crimes against children. Connecting all these dots together, along with, and I didn't mention that this is also financed because Brian Blake Crucius, Patsy's brother, living in El Paso as a CPA, is that financial connection too. So not only law enforcement, judicial, Walmart cybersecurity, prosecutors in the DA's office, mental health, hospital, the Texas Tech University Health Science Center. Um, Not only those, but also, the financial, and um, don't forget that Oprah uh, gave a major stage and her endorsement to Beto O'Rourke, who he was employing the family of La Diabla, also in the like spirit and activities of John of God, and also living right next to the owners of Plenitude Crematorium, where for over 400 bodies in one go, rotting, rat infested bodies were there. Um, and it's, Rosa Maria Purchase Arellano Caron with this funeral home fraud, um, where evidence indicates that remains of our son are. So this is huge, and it's vicious, but it's in no way disrespect to victims. Matter of fact, um, what we're trying to do is get the truth out so that we can get our son's remains, but also get accountability for all the families that have suffered so much loss like we have. Um, and that includes in the Walmart mass shooting because there's fraud, y'all. There's a lot of fraud, and there are shooters at large. And I know that the families that have um, bared the pain of losing their loved ones want justice. They don't want this to happen to anybody else. I'm sure of that. So, yeah, I wanted to really say that before I get started today. And it's been a very busy day. So, this is day 2003 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there on Fort Bliss as a U.S. Army soldier whistleblower. He was whistleblowing the worst type of crimes against children, these child camps that they have, and of course the military's tie and all the criminal trafficking, um, and um, and the military's tie, Fort Bliss's tie to the Walmart mass shooting. Um, and that was participating in mutiny, right? Because they were targeting President Trump. They wanted to oust President Trump. And therefore, they created this hell to put a false narrative out there against President Trump to sway the electorate to not vote for him, right? That's what they were doing. They were tampering with the election to oust President Trump. This was very political and it was bloody. And they were willing to do anything to oust Trump because they're involved in this criminal trafficking network. That is absolutely what's behind it. This is a very evil satanic cult. Um, and you don't have to believe me. You can look it up for yourself with what was going on at the emergency intake center on Fort Bliss during that time. And also with John the God, John of God or whatever, and with John Brian Crucius. Um, it's very, very clear that they're up to no good. Worse. So Richard was forcibly removed because he had to be silenced because he was exposing it all, right? Exposing the attack on President Trump. That's what he was exposing. It was mutiny. It was our military, and in line with the cartel there at the border. We call it the El Paso cartel because we know with Osvaldo Brunda Rodriguez or Rodriguez Brunda, the owner of El Diario, that they had made an alliance with the El Paso cartel, a joint venture alliance to traffic with impunity and also to have access to the United States. In order to live in the United States, to bank in the United States, to buy cars in the United States and have driver's license, to vote in the United States. Um, and they absolutely do. And they have access to our intelligence databases on the cases. So they don't have to get a FOIA. They can absolutely access databases and get information, right? And this is a national security threat, a threat against our agents, our informants, our entire nation, and also puts the president's life in danger. So really puts everybody's life in danger. So this is very, very serious, and we have confirmation of that. We're not, just think about what I'm saying. We better have confirmation, and we do. And we do. We have confirmation and have filed that information with multiple agencies and institutions. So that's really, um, the motive behind all of that. And why do they want to unseat President Trump so bad? Because he stands in their way. He stands in their way for them to criminal traffic and engage in their very satanic cult activities with impunity. And that's why we support him very strongly, because we know that he is really the one that stands in their way, because our investigation, the evidence absolutely cries out those facts. Um, they don't like President Trump because he blocks them. And yesterday was a very big day of an example of that. Um, and I'm not saying that his administration is perfect. I'm not saying that at all. Matter of fact, I compare him to a greater Robert the Bruce, and everyone knows Robert the Bruce, if you know history, that he was not a perfect man, but was such a great man who liberated Scotland from England. Um, and the reason why is because President Trump owns Turnberry, and Turnberry is said to be the birthplace of Robert the Bruce. So I've always said, President Trump and what he's doing around the world is liberating us from this cartel control, from this, and the cartel control. This alliance is including a huge common denominator, and it's the Mormon faction, and also, I should say, two common denominators: the Mormon faction with the cartel, and also the funeral home fraud is huge in this, because in order to do their organ harvesting, the baby extraction, C-sections, they absolutely need places like Plenitude Crematorium to clean up their evidence. And it is absolutely hell to have to investigate this and have to report this to the public, because the media is failing to do so. So, and also because evidence indicates remains of our son was disposed of like this in that place. So it's absolute hell. So yesterday, I'll go back one day, was a huge day. The arrest of Ryan Wedding, Sinaloa cartel kingpin. I should say allegedly, right? He is so important in taking down the cartel that Cash Patel flew to Mexico um, himself to bring Ryan Wedding, the Olympian, to the United States. And Wedding is suspected to sing. Not like a canary, but more like Frank Sinatra, because he's just that important. And we know that just a few days ago, and thank you so much for everybody for notifying me on that point, that 37 cartel were extradited to the United States. But Ryan Wedding is being an Olympian. It's kind of like this Miss Universe owners. They're a big deal. They're very high up. They have a lot of information because they had a lot of power to do the criminal trafficking that they were involved in. And so, something has really shifted when it comes to how we do things, because Cash Patel went there in person himself to bring back Ryan Wedding. That is like so, uh, that just doesn't happen. That happens so seldom. I can't even remember when that happened last, that the director of the FBI went himself to bring a criminal back to the United States. It just doesn't happen. So things have shifted, and he is so important that they wanted to make sure they had, um, no excuses in the case. Kind of like, with Elmayo. Elmayo has a lot of excuses, right? A lot of leverage. So they didn't want to give any leverage at all to Ryan Wedding. And that's why he is expected to sing like Frank Sinatra. So, we're hoping for that. We're absolutely hoping for that because it's the Sinaloa cartel that has tampered and obstructed and participated in what happened to the taking of our son's life and the cover up and everything. So it's very personal to us. So, and I have the picture. Let me see if I can display it. I know I was doing like the opposite the other day. There it is. There's the picture of Cash Patel. I wonder if I can I go in more? Let's see. There he is. See, there he is. Ryan Wedding. So we'll see what happens with that, right? Um, yeah, that just is a big shift, though, and I think in our favor, definitely. So let me turn that off. Now I'm going to look for um, the next story, and the next story is, of course, um, yesterday. Well, this is a different one that's really big too. Really big. Let me turn it on. Um, this is Peter Melendez. Peter Melendez, um, he worked for the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office in the courthouse, believe as a constable. I'm putting it out there as a constable, an investigator for um, the the illegal usurper James 2028 stamp Bonneau Montoya. And this is, I think, we think, our family thinks that this is a really big problem for Montoya because, uh, they are going to have to answer some TCOLE. You know, he, the, the DA deputizes um, about a half a dozen of these officers. And if there's a problem with it, then that means maybe problems with TCOLE, problems with for the family. And I really am so sad for the family and their loss. Um, we extend our condolences, and that's why we're mentioning this because we know that James Bonneau Montoya is a usurper, that he's no good, that he's illegal, that he's fake, that he's a fraud. And we've been saying that very loudly for a long time, ever since he got in at the beginning of 2025, that he's a fake, that he's a fraud. And I just pray that the family doesn't have any legal problems with getting the benefits because James Bonneau, everything he touches is crap. Everything he touches is fake. Everything he touches is a botched case. And so the death of Peter Melendez and any kind of investigation into this death, there's not a lot of transparency with it, a lot of rumors. But this is a very, very important development because it could expose, well, I think it's a huge problem for James Bonneau Montoya because it really can expose that he's a fake and a fraud. And I really, um, I hope that's exposed before more people are in the wake of his disastrous crimes, his disastrous crimes. So that's a pretty, very, very big deal. Um, Thank you so much, Laura, for coming on so late. I know it's just crazy. So let me go to the next subject since it is really, really late. Um, and this is, of course, um, this Pretty, um, Alex Pretty, who was killed today. I don't know if what gun, I think it was the ice gun that shot him. It was a real scuffle, so we need to wait and see what all comes out tomorrow, and also things that might be out that we haven't had a chance to review yet. Um, because there's so much information, we want to get the right information about this. What I can tell you is that uh, the Kristi Noem came out right away. Right away. Homeland Security came out right away and said that he is a domestic terrorist and an enemy of the United States. Now, those are very, very harsh words, harsh legal. They have a lot of legal implication, okay? It's not like just throwing names out there. So that indicated to us that he has a history, just like Renee had a history, okay? And that they were targeting the ICE agents. Okay, they were absolutely, the ICE agents weren't looking for them. They were looking for ICE and they wanted to obstruct ICE and target ICE. Now, I don't, I'm not in the belief at all that all of our ICE agents are, properly scrutinized and screened and all of that. Because look, I don't believe that about the FBI. I don't believe that about the DOJ. I don't believe about that of our officers in the military. Our Congress is totally broken. I mean, we don't have judges that are properly scrutinized. Look what I just talked about, Bonneau Montoya. So I don't believe that about ICE at all. Okay. I am um, not trying to seem like I'm blindly supporting ICE because that's not what we're doing at all. We want to know why ICE is the enemy. Okay, that ICE is the enemy. They don't go after FBI like they go after ICE, right? ICE is the enemy of this cartel infiltration. Okay, very clearly, and of course, what I've been saying for days in and days out for years, that we cannot have illegal immigrants in this country because it's dangerous for them, for their own health, for their own welfare. They cannot be in this country because we have an infiltration, a very evil demonic group that is targeting them and want to exploit them and want to hurt them. They need to be deported. And I don't even know if they understand how much danger and what a hell of a life they're going to have living in the United States illegally. Not because of the government, they might get all kinds of free stuff or whatever, right? But they are going to be under the thumb of some very, very evil people, and who knows what will happen. And so they need to leave, and then come back legally. That is what I've been saying, what our family has been saying from the very get-go. We are very pro-immigration, but you've got to do it legally for your own protection, for your own freedom, for your own family, so that you are not enslaved, captured, exploited, whatever, that you can come and really live the American dream, right? Legally. So that's our position, and in our country, what we have is immigration and customs enforcement, right? ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We have ICE, and um, because of this very, very evil governor and mayor, they clearly have exploited immigrants, illegal immigrants, right? And you see this picture right here. She came to this country illegally, Elon Omar did. And and it has been up to no good. Okay, it has been up to no good, exploiting. 1 year making $30 million. Yeah, that needs to be looked at, right? And then stealing $19 billion from taxpayers. Um, to do what with that? To buy what with that? To support what with that? Okay. And where in the world is that going? Right? Where in the world is that going? To what organizations is that going? What campaigns is that funding? Because it is funding campaigns to promote things that they like that are really demonic and evil. So uh, do not be distracted. Even though it is very terrible what happened to Alex, it's very terrible what happened to him. But he was there. He was trying to get camera. He was filming the whole time for his TikTok or whatever. His parents told him not to engage with ICE. I'll show you a little video. He must have needed the money because his RN license had expired. Okay, his RN license. The media says, oh, he was working in ICU for the VA's office. VA hospital, sorry. His nursing license was expired. So and also there are a lot of anomalies with Ukrainians that I'm not at liberty to tell you right now, okay? So there was some things that were very shady going on, um, and he was targeting the ICE agents to, sabotage the Trump administration, to sabotage, the legal, whatever you think of them, the legal process. And someone compared it to Richard dying. And I'm like, wait a minute, Richard didn't target um, the MPs. He didn't target the CID. He didn't get in their face and blow whistles and put a camera in their face and all of that. That's not what he was doing at all. He legally whistle blew, and they came after him. They targeted him. He didn't. He didn't go and put himself in front of them and try to bully them and everything. They did that to him. So it's very different from Alex's situation. And Alex, of course, has the right to protect himself with his gun. He had a gun, and he was not complying in the video. It's very clear. I can be 100%. He was not complying to the ICE agents to be arrested, put in their car, and then he would have been released. I mean, my goodness, look at who the mayor is. Look at who the prosecutor is. Look who the governor is. So he had no fear, right? He had no fear of any kind of prosecution or accountability for bullying ICE agents. He just had to comply and go away. He could have filmed it and posted that on his TikTok, but he scuffled with them. He scuffled with them, and someone called out gun, I guess. That will come out. But there was something about this woman, and I'm going to show you, like, people have been saying that he was protecting this woman, but I don't think he was protecting the woman. Let's see if I can pull this up. Yeah. Um, and I'm not going to do the sound because there's like cussing and stuff. Let's see if I can play it again. Yeah, here it goes. Yeah. But you see, here he is right there, and he's grabbing this woman, dragging her, and the ICE agent is trying to get him off the woman, right? To get him off the woman, right? Get off of her. Look at, there he is right there. And something is going on here, right? And he even drags her further because I cut off the video. He even drags her further. I don't know what's going on here. So, this is an angle that has not been really shown. And I think it's a very important angle because it shows you that the ICE agent is trying to get him off this woman. So that's and then things go very wrong. Things go very wrong, and because he's an agitator, and he has some things in his past that are so bad that Secretary Nome can say he is a domestic terrorist and an enemy of the United States. Okay, so you know he's just not nobody. It's kind of like the Nadal Baim thing. He's just not nobody, right? And is it terrible that he lost his life? 100%. It's terrible. Nobody wants that. Um, but why did he go? Why did he? Who's paying him? You know, who's paying him? Because he doesn't have a nursing license. That's a really big deal. So how is he making his money? Because of his living expenses are not shabby at all. Okay. He's not living on the streets. So who's paying him so he can pay his bills? This all needs investigating. This all needs questioning, and these really fast reactions against ICE. Um, eh, as much as as I don't like our institutions and I know that our intelligence and law enforcement and judicial are, there's been an invasion, and with that invasion, um, there has been an infiltration, and it's terrible, absolutely. But we have to stay level-headed. We have to absolutely look at the evidence and let all of us investigate this, right? And discuss it level-headed without cussing each other out and things like that. So uh, yeah, we're very sorry that this happened in Minnesota, but we feel that the governor and the mayor need to be arrested. They're under investigation now, because just think of the 9 billion, or some say $19 billion of fraud and theft from American taxpayers. And not just American taxpayers, but for those that were supposed to get the money in the first place, that didn't get the services that we wanted that money to go to. This is how evil they are. And then to not support um, scrutinizing and being the checks and balance for the ICE. If the governor would put out his state law enforcement in support of ICE, and also the mayor would put his city law enforcement in support of ICE. They would be with ICE, and that would be checks and balances. They would check each other out, and you would have peaceful um, peaceful immigration and customs enforcement instead of what you see right now, where you have the governor and the mayor instigating real violence, real violence. So, yeah, this is, and what it shows, and why I'm even covering it, being the Gold Star mother of Richard Halliday, is because it shows the media, the mainstream media bias, the mainstream media psyops on the people, the squiggly eyes, because they are not giving the whole story. They are making these agitators that have real problems in their past look like saints, and the ICE look like devils. And I, if they were fair and say, look, we need to slow down with our ICE and make sure they're trained and make sure that they're screened properly and all of that before they get the federal badge. That would be very, very fair. But because we need to support the ICE, and if they would say, look, we need, because of the situation that we have been invaded, and we have massive fraud, where illegal immigrants or illegal migrants have been exploited. Uh, we need to have our state law enforcement side by side with ICE to make sure they're doing the right thing. We need to have our city law enforcement beside ICE to make sure that everyone is doing the right thing. And I would be fine with that. But they're not doing that. They are absolutely using foul language. They're vile, they're vulgar, they're not supporting the immigration and customs enforcement mandate that ICE has, and they're not supporting the president of the United States. Matter of fact, they're targeting the president of the United States, and really risking his life with all of their rhetoric, with all of their very very bad rhetoric. Um, eh, they are absolutely inciting violence. And I just, when they have the power to be the checks and balances, right? To be the checks and balances. And the states need the federal for checks and balances, and the federal needs the states for the checks and balances. And that's how we work. That's how we operate. And they're really instigating a coup, a coup against the president of the United States. And we already have proven that there was mutiny within the military, right? In our son's case. So, what are they trying to do? Ruin our country, right? Or are they operating for a very evil satanic cult, and they will do anything, anything to keep the criminal trafficking flowing, you know? So, and the fraud going, and the fraud and the exploitation of, because they want the illegals to stay here so that they can exploit them more, um, in the worst type of ways, in the worst type of ways. So that's very clear because you hear their stories, right? And yeah, so we need law and order, and this it's not always pretty when you're dealing um, with what we're dealing with, right? It's not always pretty. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. I hope I gave you our assessment of all of what's going on, and how we mean it, how we want it to sound. I hope I did it justice, because there's so much going on, and so many victims, and we are absolutely on the side of supporting each and every victim and getting accountability and getting the criminals off the street and getting those that are very vulnerable, um, vulnerable uh, i- in the sense that they would be targeted. So, and helping them. So, thank you so much. And we will be back. We will be back tomorrow. Please share all this information and share the live streams. Make sure that you push that bell button. I was told to tell that to people. Push the bell so you will get notifications. And thank you so much. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow. God willing.